Welcome to the channel. We're back with another episode of Before You Bet. It's the YouTube series that's dedicated to give you all of the information that you're going to need before placing your wagers on UFC fights. Whether you straight up gamble on people throwing hands inside of a cage, or playing a picks pool, or are involved in MMA daily fantasy either through Fanduel or DraftKings, maybe you just want to look like a genius in front of your friends. Then Before You Bet is the show for you. I'm your host, Bobby Matthews. Before You Bet is not like those other preview and picks shows. We will not fill your head with some vague details convincing you why fighter A will either win or lose. We will not play the if game telling you if fighter B does this or if fighter B does that, then fighter B will surely come up with a win. Instead of all of that, Before You Bet is committed to providing our audience with information and knowledge, such as whether a fight has relative market value for the gambling price. We also cover trends, fight history, storylines, and where the fighters train and who's training them. We combine all that information and then we present it to you in a brief video package that is easy to digest and understand. The Z-Rep team simply does this because you deserve it. Our goal here at Z-Rep is to have fun, entertain, educate, and ultimately excite you to watch the fights and become a victorious sports bettor in the process. We work hard here at Z-Rep to provide you with all this information on an event-by-event basis. So if you enjoy the content that we're throwing out there, please like the video, share the video, get yourself into the comments, tell us your picks, best bets, over-unders you like, or simply let the community know which fight you're most excited to see. We read all of your comments and are one of the most interactive channels on all of YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe to Z-Rep and hit the notification bell to never miss out on the action. And please make sure to stay tuned at the end of the video where we give you all of our picks for free. And with that, let's begin. This for UFC Fight Night on ABC, Vettori versus Holland. UFC Fight Night, Vettori versus Holland, takes place April the 10th at the UFC Apex Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. According to ESPN, this event is going to be an early one. You can watch the prelims on ESPN Plus at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. The main card will begin broadcasting on ABC immediately after the prelims. If I'm not mistaken on the start time, if I am, please accept my apologies. I'm a bald dummy. Starting off with our main event of the evening, taking place in the middleweight division. We've got the Italian Dream, Marvin Vettori, versus Trailblazer Kevin Holland. Now, Vettori enters the contest with a 16-4-1 professional record with 2 wins by TKO, 9 submissions, and 5 decision victories. His opponent, Kevin Holland, owns a 21-6 professional record with 10 TKOs, 7 submissions, and 4 decision victories. Kevin Holland is living up to his reputation as being one of, if not the most active fighters on UFC's roster, stepping into the octagon as a short-notice replacement for Darren Till. Holland was riding a 5-fight win streak before losing to Derek Brunson by unanimous decision back on March 20th. Holland is now stepping back into the octagon only 21 days later. What a flippin' hero! Holland will also be slightly taller and own a massive 7-inch reach advantage over Marvin Vettori. Vettori enters the cage riding a 4-fight win streak and has yet to lose in the UFC as a favorite. Vettori's most recent loss came at the hands of the current middleweight champ Israel Adesanya back in 2018, losing by split decision. The oddsmakers currently have Marvin Vettori at minus 345, a moderate favorite, and Holland is a plus 270 underdog. The over-under on this fight is set at 4.5 rounds, with the over now set at minus 160 and the under at plus 130. As always, all our research and odds information have been provided to us by Tapology.com, ESPN.com, UFC.com, and MyBookie.ag. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening, we have got Almighty Arnold Allen versus Super Sadiq Youssef. Allen owns a 16-1 professional record, getting there with 5 TKOs, 4 submissions, and 7 decision victories. His opponent, Sadiq Youssef, has an 11-1 professional record with 6 TKOs, 0 submissions, and 5 decision victories. Both fighters are pretty even across the board. The southpaw fighter Allen enters the octagon on a 9-fight win streak and is 8-0 inside the UFC. In Allen's last 5 fights, all 5 have gone over 2.5 rounds. In fact, 4 of the 5 have gone to decision. Allen has wins over Gilbert Melendez and Nick Lentz. Super Sadiq Youssef is on a 6-fight win streak and is 4-0 inside the UFC, and has been a favorite in each of those fights. 3 out of his last 5 have gone over 2.5 rounds. Youssef's most notable win was against Andre Fili back in January of 2020. The odds makers have got Arnold as a slight underdog with the price set at plus 110. Sadiq Youssef is once again labeled as a favorite, currently sitting at minus 140. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, with the over currently at minus 200, and the under is priced at 160. Up next is a fight in the middleweight division. We got Kyle Daukaus going up against, forgive me if I mispronounce this, it's the Black Wolf, Ali Askab Kisriev. Daukaus is 10-1, getting there with 8 submission victories and 2 decisions. His opponent, Kisriev, is undefeated with a perfect 13-0 professional record with 5 TKOs, 4 submissions, and 4 decision victories. The Philadelphia native Daukaus is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, coming in off a win. 4 of his last 5 have also gone over 2.5 rounds, with 3 of those going to decision. Kisriev is making his UFC debut and finished the majority of his opponents within the first minute of competition, so look for him to start out strong. 4 of his last 5 have gone under 1.5 rounds. The odds have got Daukaus as a slight underdog, while the UFC newcomer Kisriev is a minus 120 favorite. The over-under on this fight is set at 2.5 rounds, with the over priced at minus 165. We got the under at plus 135. This one between Smilin' Sam Alvey taking on the Cuban Missile Crisis Julian Marquez. Alvey is a super veteran in the game with a 33-14-1 professional record, having 19 TKO victories, 3 submissions, and is 11-10 when it comes down to decisions. Julian Marquez is stepping into the octagon, replacing Zach Cummings, who withdrew from the contest. The 30-year-old Marquez owns a 8-2 MMA record with 6 TKOs, 2 submissions, and has gone 0-2 in decisions, meaning that Marquez has yet to win by decision in his career. The southpaw Sam will be 35 in May and has a 3.5-inch reach advantage, though he is probably on the chopping block for UFC's roster. Alvey has not won a fight in UFC since 2018 and is coming off a draw last October against Dan Young-Jung, who is also fighting on this card. So, to say that Sam Alvey needs a win here would be an understatement. In Alvey's last 5 fights, 3 have gone over 2.5 rounds. Julian Marquez is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, with 3 of them finishing under 1.5 rounds. It looks like he is splitting time between training camps, going back and forth from Glory MMA to Syndicate MMA, according to my resources. Looking at the odds, Sam Alvey is a plus 160 underdog, while Marquez is a moderate minus 200 favorite. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, with the over at even money, and the under is actually favored at minus 130. Moving right along, up next is a fight in the women's strawweight division, this one between Nina Ansaroff Nunez taking on Mackenzie Dern. Nunez enters the contest with a 10-6 professional record, getting there with 4 TKOs, 2 submissions, and 4 decision victories. Her opponent, Mackenzie Dern, owns a 10-1 MMA record with 6 submission victories, 4 decisions, and 0 TKO victories. Nunes is 4-1 in her last 5 fights and is coming off a loss to Tatiana Suarez, but has recorded wins over Claudia Gadelha and Angela Hill. All 5 of her last 5 fights have gone over 2.5 rounds. Dern is also 4-1 in her last 5, but is entering the fight riding the momentum of a 3-fight winning streak. 3 out of her last 5 have gone under 1.5 rounds with submissions. The odds have got Nina Nunes as a slight -140 favorite, and Dern is a +110 underdog. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, with the over at -170 and the under at +140. Now we are here at the People's main event of the evening, this one taking place in the welterweight division. We got Platinum Mike Perry taking on D-Rod Daniel Rodriguez. Mike Perry has a 14-7 professional record with 11 TKOs, 0 submissions, 3 decisions. Daniel Rodriguez is 13-2 in his MMA career and has gotten there by getting 7 TKO victories, 4 submissions, and 2 decisions. The Southpaw Rodriguez is 34 and will have a 3-inch reach and height advantage. He trains at the BMF Ranch right here in New Mexico. He is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, though he's coming off a loss against Nicholas Dalby. But he does have victories against Tim Means and Gabe Green. Mike Perry has won only 2 of his last 5 fights, and 4 of those have gone over 2.5 rounds. This should be a good test for Perry, who has recently been losing to top-level competition. The odds have Mike Perry as a +130 underdog. D-Rod is a -160 favorite. We got the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, with the over at -125, the under currently at -105. And just like that, we've arrived at our prelim main event of the evening. This is a fight in the lightweight division featuring A10 Jim Miller taking on Joe Selecki. Jim Miller is another one of those super veterans with a 32-15 MMA record with 4 TKOs, 18 submission victories, and 10 decisions. Selecki has a 10-2 pro record with 1 TKO, 7 submissions, and 2 decision victories. The Southpaw Miller is 3-2 out of his last 5 fights and is coming off a loss to Vince Pichel. Possibly about to go on a win one, lose one trend, we shall see. In Miller's last 5 fights, 3 of them have gone under 1.5 rounds. And let's not pretend otherwise. Miller's path to victory is definitely to get the finish within the first round because of Miller's health problems. The poor man is living with Lyme disease. Selecki is 10 years younger and is on a 5-fight win streak. He is on a 2-0 run in the UFC, and 2 of his last 3 fights have gone under 1.5 rounds as well. The odds have Jim Miller listed as a +195 underdog. Selecki is a moderate favorite at -235. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, with the over at -150. The under is at +120. Up next, we've got another lightweight fight. This one between Hot Sauce Scott Holtzman taking on Mateusz Gamrot. Holtzman owns a 14-4 professional record with 5 TKOs, 2 submissions, and 7 decision victories. His opponent, Gamrot, is 17-1 in his MMA career with 5 TKOs, 4 submissions, and 8 decision victories. Both fighters are about as even as they come. Holtzman is 7 years older and is coming off a loss to Beneil Dariush. In his last 5 fights, 3 of them have gone under 2.5 rounds. Gamrot is 4-1 in his last 5, all 5 going over 2.5 rounds. Gamrot is coming off a split decision loss, which happened during his UFC debut. The odds have Holtzman as a plus 200 underdog. Gamrot is a minus 240 favorite. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, with the over being juiced up to minus 245 and the under at plus 205. As we're moving right along here, we've got another fight in the lightweight division. This one between the Bull, John Makdessi, taking on La Hula, Ignacio Bahamondes. Now, Makdessi owns a 17-7 professional record with 9 TKOs, 8 decision wins, and 0 submissions. Ignacio has an 11-3 professional record with 8 TKOs, 3 decisions, and also has 0 submissions. Makdessi is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, coming off a loss to Francisco Trinaldo, and 4 of those last 5 have gone over 2.5 rounds. Bahamondes is making his UFC debut and is 4-1 in his last 5 and is on a 2-fight win streak, and 4 of those last 5 have gone over 2.5 rounds as well. The odds have got the Canadian Makdessi as a plus 155 underdog. The debuting Bahamondes is a minus 165 favorite. Up next, we've got the big guys in the heavyweight division when the Mad Titan Yorgan De Castro takes on Man Mountain Yoris Dano. Now, De Castro has a 6-2 professional record with 5 TKOs, 0 submissions, and 1 decision victory. Yoris Dano has a 6-1 professional record with all of his wins coming by way of TKO. Now, Yorgan De Castro is 1-3 in the UFC and has only won 3 of his last 5 fights. De Castro is coming in on a 2-fight losing streak, losing to Carlos Felipe and Greg Hardy. 3 of De Castro's last 5 have gone over 2.5 rounds. There is not much to report on Dano. He lost his UFC debut way back in 2016 when I had hair, and has not had a professional fight since 2016. So there is a lot of unknown about this fight. I would recommend passing on this fight altogether if you're going to bet or pick it. The odds have Yorgan De Castro as a minus 280 favorite. Dano is a plus 220 underdog with the over-under set at 1.5 rounds. Up next, we got a fight in the bantamweight division between Hunter Azure as he takes on the Welshman Jungle Jack Shore. Hunter Azure owns a 9-1 professional record with 3 TKOs, 1 submission, and 5 decision victories. Jack Shore is an undefeated fighter with a perfect 13-0 MMA record. He got there by getting 4 TKOs, 8 submissions, and has 1 decision victory. Jack Shore will have a slight reach advantage, and as I said, is an undefeated professional fighter. But my research indicates that Jack Shore has actually gone 25-0 in his last 25 fights if you include his amateur record. Hunter Azure has gone 4-1 in his last 5 fights and is coming off a win against Cole Smith. 4 of his last 5 have gone over 2.5 rounds, with 4 of those being decisions. Looking at the odds, we got Azure a slight underdog at plus 125. Jungle Jack is a minus 155 favorite. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds. We got the over at 160, while the under is set at, or priced at, plus 130. Up next, we've got a fight in the featherweight division. This one between Luis Saldana taking on the native psycho, Jordan Griffin. Now, Saldana has a 14-6 professional record with 7 TKOs, 7 submissions, and is 0-3 when it comes to decisions. Griffin has an 18-8 professional record with 5 TKOs, 9 submissions, and 4 decision victories. Saldana is making his UFC debut and is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, is currently on a 4-fight winning streak. His opponent, Griffin, is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, coming off a loss to Yusuf Zalal. He's faced tougher competition going up against the likes of Chaz Skelly and Dan Ige. The odds makers have the newcomer Saldana as a slight favorite at minus 140, while Griffin is an underdog at plus 110. The over-under is set at 2.5 rounds, with the over priced at minus 200 and the under at plus 160. Up next, we've got a fight in the light heavyweight division. This one between Da Young Jung taking on the Nightmare, William Knight. Now, Jung comes into the fight with a 13-2-1 professional record, getting 10 TKOs, 2 submissions, and 1 decision victory. William Knight has a 9-1 professional record with 8 TKOs, 0 submissions, and 1 decision victory. Jung has not lost in 12 fights and is coming off a draw against Sam Alvey. In Jung's last 5 fights, 4 have gone under 2.5 rounds, and will also have a massive 6-inch height and 5.5-inch reach advantage. Knight comes into the fight on a 3-fight winning streak, and 3 of his last 5 have gone to the under 1.5 rounds. Only 1 fight in his career has gone to decision. The odds makers have Jung as a slight favorite at minus 140, and Knight is currently a plus 110 underdog. The over-under is set at 1.5 rounds, with the over at minus 150, the under at plus 120. And finally, we've made it to the curtain jerker. It's the early prelim fight taking place in the welterweight division, when we got Impa Kasange facing off against Sasha Palatinkov. Now, Kasange is stepping into the octagon with an 8-1 professional record. He's got 0 TKOs, 2 submissions, and 6 decision victories. Kasange will have a 3-inch reach advantage despite being the shorter fighter. Kasange has won 4 of his last 5 and is coming off the KO of the year loss to Joaquin Buckley when Buckley sent him into the Shadow Realm. Palatinkov has a 6-1 professional record with 3 TKOs and 3 decisions. Now, the odds have Kasange as a minus 290 favorite, while Palatinkov is a plus 230 underdog. We got the over-under on this fight at 2.5 rounds, and the over is at minus 225, with the under at plus 185. And we've arrived here at the picks portion of the show. And again, let me reiterate, the purpose of the show is not to cloud your judgment with our terrible picks. The purpose of the show is actually to provide our audience with as much information and knowledge as possible before you lay your money on the line. Before I release our picks, I want to remind our audience to keep an eye out for our sister series, Hits and Misses. It's a show that recaps, rates, and reviews all of the action that went down inside the octagon. We also hold ourselves accountable for all of our picks, and we keep track of our record. Hits and Misses is also the only sports betting show that celebrates with you. If you had a winning ticket, we want you to join us for our victory lap. It's also the only sports betting show that acknowledges its mistakes and failures, and then we move on. We do that with our walk of shame. Now, if you had a losing ticket and you would like to take your walk of shame with us to learn your lesson and do better for next time, we'd like you to join us at Hits and Misses for our victory lap and our walk of shame. Now it's time for Z-Rep to release its official picks for the week. We're going to roll with Marvin Vettori, Arnold Allen, Ali Askab, Krisev, Julian Marquez, Mackenzie Dern, Daniel Rodriguez, Joe Selecki, Scott Holtzman, Louis Saldana, but I would recommend passing on that one altogether. William Knight, Yaris Dono, I would recommend passing on that fight as well. Jack Shore, and Impa Kasangane. So that's going to do it here Before You Bet for this week. Remember, we do this for every UFC event, so if you like the video, please share it, subscribe to Z-Rep so you never miss out on the action. Stay free, stay safe. Bobby Matthews, signing off.